everybody. Welcome to Culture by Numbers and another episode where data geeks meet pop culture and we dive deep into ways that marketers, data scientists, and ad practitioners can collaborate with brands looking to utilize tools for performance. Today, we have a special guest, Joy Joseph, who is a managing partner at Syneractive, a specialty consulting firm around consumer behavior and helping marketing organizations extract greater value from their marketing activities by leveraging data-driven marketing strategies. And today's discussion is about Gen Z, because after a promising start, Gen Z's career launch seems to have faltered, and companies are increasingly reporting performance and attitudinal issues that have now escalated into fairly widespread instances of firings. So we're going to dive deep into whether Gen Z really have a systematic work ethic issue, or is there something else at play?
Decided to part ways with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there.
I'm really sorry that you're having this experience and feeling this way.
Gen Z are going viral for exposing their employers to millions.
They're really showing us a better way, and they're just a generation that's calling us to the carpet and saying, no, this is not the way that we should do this.
Up until 2019, companies like Deloitte and McKinsey in their research studies talked about this generation being incredibly aware, socially aware, and really looking to make an impact. And there's a lot of promise. And then suddenly, since last year, as older Gen Zs got into the workplace, we hear that a lot of them are failing to launch, and there's issues in engagement at work, poor communication, and like lack of preparation for assignments, wanting to start late, leave early, and so on and so forth. And so that led to a lot of companies just saying, I don't want to deal with this. And so suddenly there's firings all over LinkedIn over the last couple of months or longer. And it's absolutely a new term that's been coined probably in the last 18 months or so. It's basically combining two words, resentment and absenteeism. And it is an escalation from 2022 when quiet quitting became a thing. Quiet quitting is where Gen Zers were proposing just coasting at work, doing the bare minimum to deal with the workload stress. And so there's quiet quitting, and then combine that with feeling trapped in your job, resenting feeling trapped in your job, and you have resenteeism, which is what Gen Z seems to have taken as a passive aggressive way of just being stuck in a role they don't like.
And Gen Z was on track to be one of the most engaged and pragmatic generations. What happened?
If you have an ideal, right? So think of any situation. If you have an ideal belief about how the system should operate, and you're exposed to come into a system that's rigid, inflexible, and basically it's a little bit of my way or the highway, then you feel stuck. And resentment then becomes inevitable, I think.
So everyone experienced some shape or form of this pandemic skip. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about what that actually means and why has it impacted Gen Z so much?
Yes, that's another key word that is being conflated with resenteeism. But pandemic skip is literally what it says, right? It's a skip in time, the time lost during the pandemic. And this feeling that there's a gap between your mental age and your chronological age. And this was because as you went into lockdown, you were at a certain life stage, and then everything just got frozen. You were isolated, and you were in lockdown, and during that time, all of your life events got muted to some degree, right? And so typically things that you do in interaction as a member of society, all of those got muted down.
Disrupted, in fact, right?
Yeah, disrupted, absolutely. And now if you think about what that means at different life stages, every life stage has different key milestones, right? So if you're older and you're starting a new family, it's the birth of a child, if and it might be the purchase of a new house. But I would say arguably there is a compression of major life milestones when you're coming of age, right? So there's a lot of things as you come into independence, as you come into being on your own, there seems to be a lot of big milestones there. Your key birthdays, like your 18th birthday, or your graduation, your first car purchase, or getting your driver's license, dating. All of these are kind of probably compressed in that time frame between like 16, 17, and 21.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
think about how Gen Z went through this compressed time period of major milestones. They were in lockdown, right? Everything got just muted down. Like, 16th birthday or your 18th birthday or your high school graduation, everything got kind of like you felt got shortchanged, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, that's where the pandemic skip is coming from. Suddenly you feel like you lost out on all of that, and your mental age now suddenly coming out of lockdown, you feel like you are at a different age, like you're like stuck 4 years behind. But that's the pandemic skip.
It sounds like we're facing a generation of arrested development where they're just about to spring forward and blossom, and all of these world circumstances that are out of control have really stunted possible development and coming of age, as you call it. So where do we as a collective professional community go from here? How do brands and advertisers address the challenges that Gen Z are facing as they seek to understand and go out into the world and make their impact? And there's absolutely a mental health epidemic in terms of trying to solve for some of the world's problems. So you rightly pointed out that. And so maybe employers have to include benefits and resources for mental health. There are apps now like Calm and help meditate. But also I've seen even in terms of video streaming popularity for young adults and Gen Z, it's been comedy and horror genre. Those are the top two genres of streaming at Amazon in terms of what young people are watching. So they get their news from Jon Stewart or some of the late night comedians that try to make sense of what's going on in the world as a coping mechanism, and then escapism through horror flicks. So kind of interesting to see that's one of the outcomes. But absolutely, it's a very serious topic on how we can shape and inspire and inform the next generation as they come through this stage in history, so that employers can really tap into the productivity and promise of Gen Z.
I think the biggest thing that we need to do is move away from last minute fixes and brinkmanship. And what I mean by that is COVID came and suddenly people realized that people were burnt out and stressed out, and mental health was an issue. And suddenly companies started making meditation sessions part of their regimen. And that's only when it came to unbearable levels. No, let's not do the brinkmanship. Let's make it a standard part. Right. So kind of talk about making mainstream perks like flex schedules and dynamic workspaces and remote working and compressed work weeks. Let's include those as perks. Make it clear that these are perks and privileges that have to be respected as such. But let's start with that, right? That gives Gen Z and all generations the flexibility that they need and deserve. And then secondly, with this generation especially that might be coming in with a gap with the disrupted coming of age that they had, include programs like buddy coaching, and making sure second or third year associates are there to mentor incoming associates and so on and so forth. And then making career pathways transparent and frequent qualitative and quantitative performance calibration. This really struck a chord for me as I saw the TikTok video of the girl who recorded her firing, and she was asking legitimate questions on the why and her contributions and the fact that her manager wasn't present for that HR termination. I think transparency is key with this generation, and transparency and a clear pathway of where they are and giving that feedback. This generation believes in dialogue. Why are we not giving them the dialogue that they're asking for?
So a robust onboarding program with us.
that give and take, right? Meeting them halfway means that they voice their concerns. We talk to them about the needs of the company, and then we meet them halfway.
Absolutely. And giving them a safe environment to express themselves where they can talk about their concerns, their fears, insecurities, and also aspirations. I think that kind of rounds out what we wanted to discuss today about the impact of Gen Z on workforce productivity going into the next 20 years. We're going to share a bunch of resources in this podcast, and there is a McKinsey newsletter about Gen Z, the Deloitte study that you mentioned that marketers can sign up for, which gives a number of consumer insight blogs to help get you informed. And lastly, Syneractive is coming out with a comprehensive research study on Gen Z that combines academic psychological research studies as well as industry testimonials that can not only be applied to media campaigns aimed at reaching and speaking to Gen Z, but also to help understand the important ways to recruit, inspire, and motivate the next generation as they go through this important rite of passage. So be sure to watch out for it, and we'll share a link to the study when it comes out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.